Update. My brother proposed to my fiancée and I'm mad. Original post. My 28 male brother Mark, 26 male, used to date my fiancée Jen, 26 female, a year ago. For context, they dated back in August 2022. They were only together for a month before he broke things off with her because he was bored of being in a relationship and never really wanted to settle down anyway. At the time they were dating, I was in a different state, so I had no idea he even had a girlfriend. And I had no idea who Jen was until I met her. Jen and I met at a bar when I moved back in October and hit it off really well. She was easily the most beautiful and intelligent woman I ever met, and we met up a few times more before we made it official. Fast forward to December and I finally bring her up to my family and proposed them meeting her at Christmas. They knew I was in a relationship, but I'm not the most open about my personal life, so I kept details about her to minimum until I knew how serious we really were. My parents asked to see pictures, and they started passing my phone around the dinner table. Mark saw it and blew up, calling me a horrible brother for dating his ex-girlfriend, and he demanded I break it off with her. I refused. When I asked Jen about it, she confirmed they dated and gave me the details about their breakup. It took a few weeks, but eventually Mark stopped bringing up me dating his ex, and I thought he was over it. On Jen's birthday this year, I took her out to a fancy dinner with both our families and her closest friends, and I asked her to marry me. Mark flipped once again and blew up about me proposing to her, which I and my sisters immediately shut down. The incident happened this past weekend. Mark had been pretty quiet about the whole thing for the last 2 months. I didn't see him much and figured he went low contact with me, which I had no problem with. Then he invited me and Jen for a family dinner at his apartment with my parents and sisters. I thought it was weird, but my parents and sisters were also going, so we agreed to go. The dinner was nice, nothing too fancy, and we moved to the living room to talk. About 30 minutes into normal conversation, Mark stood up and told us he had an announcement. He made a long speech about being happy to have his family around his big moment, then got on one knee and pulled out this cheap ring while asking Jen to marry him. Jen was confused and obviously uncomfortable and demanded that he put it away and stand up. My dad tried to make a grab for Mark, but I got to him first and hit him. I won't repeat most of it, mostly because I was too angry to even listen most of it, but he said something along the lines of wanting to show me that Jen wasn't really into me and just wanted to get back at him. Before it could get worse, my parents rushed me out and promised to talk to him. It's been a few days since it happened, and I'm still mad about it. I don't know what to do at this point. I'm scared Jen might have second thoughts marrying me because of this. Any advice? Now for the top advice before reading the update. I think it's clear that your brother doesn't even like nor want Jen. He doesn't even see her as a human. He sees her as an object, a toy that he didn't want. But seeing someone else with it makes him go, no, mine, like a freaking child. So he's acting out and trying to drive a wedge between y'all in order to get his way. If he liked her, he would care about how she feels. If he liked her, he'd want her to be happy. He doesn't like her. So forget the tantrum is trying to pull and block him. No need to entertain that nonsense. Absolutely this. How much do you want to bet the brother is also the sort of guy to get mad when somebody else gets a promotion at work while he himself is doing below bare minimum at all times? Wow, he's that ex. It sounds like your brother needs more time away from Jen before he can be a normal acquaintance or future brother-in-law. You and Jen should go low contact for at least 6 months to a year to ensure he moves on properly. I think he's moved on. They dated a month, and he broke up with her. He doesn't see her as a person, but he puts down the toy he doesn't want, and now someone else is touching it, so he is having a tantrum. Lock your brother out of your life for good. That's the only way you and your fiancé will be able to live peacefully. Don't listen to his family BS if anyone tries to give it to you. Thankfully, I haven't heard the his family nonsense much, aside from my mom and a few aunts. They know me well enough to know our relationship isn't enough for me to put up with his disrespect, especially towards my fiancé. They'd be wasting their breath. The brother sounds like a petulant child. If your girlfriend ends up going back to that over you, which going by what you've said I'd say is highly unlikely, then you'd have dodged a massive bullet. Yeah, I don't think I have to worry about her going back. Safe to say she can't stand him either, lol. Edit. First, thanks for reading and responding. I've been reading the comments between last night and this morning and valid points were made. There isn't an update since the only people I've spoken to since that dinner is Jen and my little sister. I want to clarify a few things that I saw in the comments. 1. Jen and I are newly engaged. It was one of those feelings where we both knew we were in it for the long run. As fast as it is, I'm sure about her. 2. When we met, I was the one who approached her, not the other way around. Whether she knew or had suspicions of us being related, I don't know. I asked after finding out they dated, and she says she had no idea. I didn't have a reason to doubt that, but I can admit this seemingly overreaction on Mark's part does raise red flags. 3. I had no idea she and Mark dated when I met her. Mark and I aren't close at all. We used to be, but as we grew up, we drifted and talked less and less. Before I moved back, we didn't really speak much, aside from special days like his or my birthday. Jen knew of my family but not much until I decided I was ready to introduce them to her. When she and Mark met again, I didn't get a sense of any residual feelings on either part. She didn't treat him like a stranger, but she also wasn't overly affectionate with him either. 4. I was told this was a relationship that lasted a month. I didn't think I needed permission from Mark to ask her to marry me, but maybe that was wrong of me. I'm not sure. That being said, I plan to talk to Mark this weekend to lay everything out on the table and figure out what's up. I never asked for a side of their relationship, which is my fault for not doing my due diligence. If anything major or enlightening happens, I'll update. But for now, that's all I have. Now for the full update. First, I want to thank everyone for reading. It's been a busy weekend, so I haven't had a chance to reply to many people, but I did edit in responses to the most common questions I saw in the comments of the original post. Again, thank you. I appreciate it all, even the criticisms. Now for the update. I called Mark and asked him to meet up with me at my place to talk. I told him I would prefer Jen to be around for the talk as well, but I was cool with it if he didn't want her there. He agreed to talk to both of us and showed up at my place around noon today. It was pretty quiet for a few minutes before I started a conversation. I apologized for not warning him I would be proposing to Jen, and I apologized for hitting him. He said it was whatever, but he appreciated the apology. I told him what Jen had said about the relationship and breakup when I asked her about it, and I asked him to confirm if it was true. I pretty much said that his reaction throughout the whole thing has been extreme, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding their relationship or downplaying how serious they were. He confirmed that they only dated for a few weeks, and he broke up with her because he lost interest. Jen asked if he was acting like this because he still had feelings or regrets about ending things with her. He said he could admit he thought she was more attractive than when he last saw her, but there weren't any feelings or regrets. He said he just didn't like seeing a girl he dated, even if it was short-term, with his older brother, and as a man shouldn't have violated him by pursuing things with his ex. I reminded him that I had no idea they dated, so it wasn't like I consciously did this knowing their history together. He shrugged me off and said it didn't matter. I still should have broken it off. He was adamant that if the roles were reversed, he would have done the same thing, which I doubt. I asked him why he proposed to her if he didn't have any lingering feelings. Basically, to sum it up, he was talking about it to one of his buddies who was around when Mark and Jen dated, and the guy put the idea in his head that maybe Jen knew from the start that we were related and was doing this to get back at him, considering Jen had been hung up on him after they ended. He and his friend thought it would be a good idea to test it and see if they were right. So he came up with the idea to propose and see if she dumped me for him. Jen asked him to elaborate on why he thought she was hung up on him, and he told her that he heard she was asking about him following the breakup and still hanging out at places they used to go to, so it was a valid assumption. Then for her to pop up randomly with his brother affirmed his suspicions. Jen told him she'd only ask about him once following the breakup, and she'd been hanging out at those places with friends before they started dating, and she wouldn't avoid them because of a breakup. She also told him she was offended at the idea that she would go as low as to pursue me, just to get back at him. He shrugged and gave her a half-baked apology, but said she had to see it from his point of view. He asked her if she really didn't know, and she told him that she didn't see the resemblance in us until we were in the same room, and we act nothing alike, so it never crossed her mind, and he said okay. That pretty much wrapped up the conversation. He did tell me before he left that I could take back his invite to the wedding, because he can't bring himself to support our relationship knowing he used to date her. I told him he didn't have to worry about that, as he was most likely going to be uninvited anyway. It's been a few hours since our talk, and I do feel better. My parents aren't too happy about him being uninvited, but they understood that it was a mutual decision and probably for the best. My sisters told me they knew he didn't have a good reason for being an a-hole, and they don't blame me for not wanting him at the wedding. As of now, I'm going to limit contact with Mark, and I doubt he'll reach out to me anytime soon either. Once again, I want to thank everyone for reading and commenting, and if anything significant happens, I'll update again. I can't get over the fact that he only dated her for a few weeks, doesn't tell you at all, and then still expects you to break up with someone that he apparently was not interested in at all. He has some horrible friends. And the fact that he doubled down tells me he's looking at your wife more as a property or used goods rather than a human being. Not to mention the disrespect on a personal level to assume that you're not deserving of happiness if he's already been with that person. He has a really crappy mindset. That's likely going to paint a very bad picture in the future of him. I imagine the brothers' buddies all killing themselves laughing that they got him to do the proposal. I refuse to believe this is real, because I do not want to live in a world where an adult can be so stupid to think that plan would work. Even if Jen was this conniving person, a public proposal as your attempt to edge her back in is literally insane. I've had former friends who thought they were such hot stuff that they actually did pull something like what Opie's brother did, only to have a severe reality check later. This story may sound unbelievable, but the stupidity is sadly real. What happened? They thought they could seduce their respective exes back to them, and were even convinced to take it further by proposing from other friends I also no longer associate with. You can imagine how that turned out. Hindsight, weirdest friend group I fell into. I had a tormented relationship for 5 years with someone who had asked me to marry him, then didn't want me to tell anyone for over a year, by which time he was saying it was a mistake. That was the trigger for our final breakup, and I was lucky enough to connect with an old crush soon after. Despite knowing that, Mr. Ambivalent decided I was the love of his life after all, and that he'd better get down on one knee in a park and propose. Screw you, guy, and your crappy cheap ring, and year of whiny emails. My ex-husband proposes to his partner every now and again, just to tell her that it was only a joke, the next day. Our children have been present when this nonsense went down. I would have kicked his butt a long time ago, but they have a severely autistic son, and he has the money to provide to his needs and specialty facilities, etc. I think she stays for this reason. Last story. Am I 48 female crazy for letting it bother me that my partner, 49 male, agreed with his ex about me? I've always been independent. I was single and on my own 100% for 10 years with my child until I met my current partner. Bought my own place, owned 2 cars just like majority of people do. This guy is truly amazing and I have never been happier. We have been together 4 years. His ex-wife, I noticed in the beginning of our relationship, was always calling and yelling about needing more money for this, more money for that. Always about money. Their children are grown and he already makes huge payments, but it was just not enough. Anyhow, not my business, so not my place to say anything. Not something I even cared to know about. We have never met or interacted and never had any reason to. So in December, she texted him talking about what a mooch their son's girlfriend is, and her mother as well. He was playing the texts in text-to-voice while sitting next to me, so no, I wasn't snooping. She said a girlfriend needs to sign a prenup before getting serious with her son. The son doesn't own anything or even work, so unsure how his girlfriend is mooching from him. She was just sounding extra spicy and miserable. Then says, speaking of which, you need to get whoever that is that you're with to sign one too. We have worked hard over half our lives to just have her take everything from us. I was stunned, but when he replied to her, Roger that, I was incredibly hurt that he didn't defend me. He instead sounded like he agreed with her. I asked if he really thought I was going to do something like that to him, and he said no. When I mentioned that really hurt when he agreed, he just said let it go, and it's nothing to be upset over. We had never even talked about moving in together. I definitely like having my own place, but now after that, I will never ever move in with him in the future. Not a chance. One time, he mentioned a problem about the huge payments he makes to her, and I was snarky and said something about her being so concerned about me signing a prenup so I don't take what's hers, and he got angry. The one and only time I have seen him angry at me. Part of me wants to bail, because she obviously still has so much control over his life when they have been split for years. Am I crazy for letting this bother me like it thinks I am? Now for the top comments. I definitely like having my own place, but now after that, I will never ever move in with him in the future. Smart call. Really a smart call. So, he didn't get angry with the ex when she went off on you and didn't shut her down, but he got mad at you when you pointed this out? Me thinks your partner is a little confused about who exactly his partner is. Thank you. Someone who understands what I'm saying here, lol. Just flip it back on them both and say, I don't think it's a good idea to move in together and intermingle our finances. I worked way too hard all these years to have you and your ex bleed me dry with these ridiculous adult-aged child support payments. Now you know that she will always have a say or control a certain aspect of him and his money. Just the fact that he let her demand more money and not put his foot down and go with what the court says is saying something. I get when the kids are younger, but as you said, they're grown. Yes, and the fact that I am not allowed to tell him it upset me without being made to feel stupid makes me wonder if this is worth it as well. That is the point where you should take some time and decide if he is really someone you want to be around, when you can't even talk about something that upsets you. I agree. My dad is crying because he wants to live with me after everything is done to me. Plus update. I, 26 female, have dealt with a lot from my alcoholic dad. Growing up, he was never mean to me, but never really a father. He worked overnight and slept all day. His drinking got worse when I was 16 and continued to decline. When I was 18, he lost his job and chose to drink with his friends instead of finding a new one. I have 3 older sisters who were already moved out when this happened, so it was just me and my mom living there. Electricity would get turned off, water shut off. He wouldn't pay for more oil in the winter, so I would have to sleep in a freezing cold house under 6 blankets. He spent most of this time at his friends' houses, so we didn't have to even deal with it. My mom barely made enough money to cover groceries and other expenses, and I was full-time student in beauty school and had a part-time job, so it couldn't help much either. My parents fought terribly because of this, and living there was hell. So I moved in with my boyfriend at a time, now fiancé, with his family, because I couldn't take it anymore. After this, I barely heard from my dad for years. He ended up losing the house, and my mom got a cheap apartment for herself that she could barely afford. My dad became homeless, and either slept in his car or hung out with his addict friends. This went on for 5 years, and he barely talked to me during this time. Fast forward to the present. My fiancé and I worked our butts off for ourselves and built a house. We've been moved in for 18 months. But one day after we moved in, I was T-boned by a pickup truck and sustained horrible injuries. My dad found out at Christmas, which was when the injuries were still fresh, but didn't bother to text or call me once after that. Now, he had a stroke in January. He actually does have Medicare, so he's been in a state-run nursing home since then. He's miserable there and keeps calling his sister, sobbing that he has 4 daughters but none of them will take him in. He's staying in this nursing home for free, and my sisters and I all have full-time jobs and are starting our own lives. My dad has always been a very irresponsible person, leaves the front door open all night, leaves the stove on, etc. On top of all that, he just had a stroke, so him staying with one of us would turn us into a nurse. I'm working full-time, planning my wedding and still doing finishing touches on my new house. I worked hard for all of this despite what he put me through. I am the only one out of my sisters that still lives in the area. The rest of them moved away, all about 2 hours away or so. My dad told his sister he is waiting for my fiancé and I to open our house to him because he wants to stay around here. His sister feels so bad for him and asks us all if we could do a family phone call on Friday, just my sisters and my aunt, because he's so unhappy and is so sad his daughters don't want him. I'm absolutely furious that he is calling around telling people in the family that I won't offer my house to him after everything he put me through. My aunt even told him he can stay with her until his disability comes in, and he told her he wants to stay with his daughters. Like he has a right to pick and choose. He didn't even bother to freaking text or call me when I was suffering from my accident. But he is expecting me to open my home to him when I'm planning a wedding and working full-time? I'm starting my life and I want no part of this, especially because he can either continue staying in the nursing home or stay with my aunt. I'm going to have to be rude on this phone call because everyone is probably expecting me to feel bad for him. I don't. He did this all to himself. He chose to stop working. He chose to give up on parenting when I still needed him. He chose to not be involved in my life. Now you're going to make me feel guilty for not opening my home to you? Side note, I've even been going to the nursing home once a week to get his dirty clothes and do them for him, despite all the anger I've had towards him all these years. I'm about to stop doing that too. They can do his laundry in the nursing home. Now for the top comments before reading the update. First, congratulations and best wishes to you and your fiancé. Second, I'm very sorry that you're going through all of that. But you absolutely have every right to refuse to give in to his manipulation, guilt-tripping, and other nonsense. If other family members are very worried about him, well then they can move him in with them. Thank you. I agree. I told my fiancé that I think he wants me to offer our home so he can tell himself he didn't fail as a father and that his kids still love him. I of course feel awful for him and I wish him the best, but I'm not in a position financially or mentally to handle him, especially knowing he has other options. I just find it so selfish. I'm a very people-pleasing person and it's very difficult for me to stand up for myself. So you can imagine how stressed I am over all of this. But I'm forcing myself to stay strong. Best way to get over that people-pleasing urge, which has been programmed into us by our parents by the way, is to pretend you're reading your post from the point of view of someone else. So, reread your post as if one of us has written it, or your friend who was asking for advice. What does your gut tell you? I got as far as he's in a state-run nursing home but he is miserable in there, and keeps calling his sister, sobbing that he has 4 daughters. Before I said out loud, oh hell no. He doesn't have 4 daughters. He forfeited you and your sisters when he chose drink over parenting, when he chose to neglect you, when he couldn't even be bothered to contact you after your terrible accident. You owe him nothing. He provided the sperm and that's it. He does not get to play the sad dad now after everything is put you through. To be honest, I wouldn't even be a part of this bloody phone call. If your aunt feels so sorry for him, then let her look after him. If she believes that you should care for him and have him in your house after everything is done, then personally I'd ditch her too. Absolutely stop doing your dad's laundry too. Go as low contact as you possibly can. No contact would be better, but only you know what you're comfortable with. Sending you huge hugs. Thank you so much. I appreciate the advice. The only reason I plan on being on the call is so I can be super stern and blunt, because this is now the 4th time my aunt brought up the idea of him staying with me, and I'm going to put an end to it on this call. The second I hang up the phone with them, I'm driving to the nursing home, dropping off his clean clothes at the front desk and never looking back. I'm not going in to visit him. I'm not taking his dirty clothes with me. I'm going to get right back in my car, block his number, and go home. All you have done is grow up, move out, and make your own life of your own choosing. This is what emotionally healthy parents want their children to do. This is what I had to keep reminding myself of when my parents tried to get me to move back to my hometown. They didn't need me, but thought I owed them my company, the company of my children, and future old age care. You don't owe your father anything. Thank you. I agree. It's funny how he thinks he can be out of my life for years and then try to come back in when he needs something. I'm glad you were able to stay strong to your parents. Now for the update. So the call never happened because one of my sisters got held up at work. She sent a text to me and our other sisters in a group chat, aunt not included, and said we can talk sometime soon. I don't want to wait to speak my mind, so I texted back and said I have something to say. Here's the message I sent. Well, I think it's great that you guys are willing to help and do what you can for Dad, but I've reached my breaking point. I personally don't think it's fair for him to give up on being a parent the last few years I needed him, when we were still living at home, and then barely contact me since then, and then make these comments to aunt and whoever else that I won't open my home to him. You have no idea how mad I've been the last few days. It's insulting. Neither fiancé and I are comfortable with him ever staying in our home. I've mentioned this numerous times since his stroke, but it's still being brought up. Not by you guys, by him and aunt. Neither of them has a right to make me feel this way. I'm at a point now where I feel like I was nice enough to do his laundry, fill out his disability papers, bring him groceries, and visit with him, despite all of this sadness and anger it caused in me. Now, him and aunt and whoever else are expecting more of me just because he's my dad. He doesn't get to just stop working or being a parent and then decide to act this way. I truly no longer want any part of this situation with him. It may sound harsh, but I tried to help, and now I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Last story. My mom kicked me out for my foster sister plus update. For some background, 19 female and my 8-month-old son live with my mother, 54 female, who decided to become a foster mom 2.5 years ago and was placed with 2 girls I'll call Liz, 14 female, and Amy, 8 female, who at the time were 12 and 6 respectively. Both girls had severe developmental, mental, and behavioral issues due to drugs and other issues that I will not include for privacy. Liz's issues were more severe, which resulted in her going to a group home after being with us for 6 months, as we couldn't properly care for her. During those months, she stole over $200 cash from me and $150 worth of stuff. She also cursed, spit, and threw things at me when I didn't do exactly what she wanted. I still have scars on my chest and arms from Liz, as I had yelled at her for taking my earrings. That was the day Liz was removed. So about a month ago, my mom told me that she was going to bring Liz back, as she needed a place to stay till she could get a bed at a better facility. I did not feel comfortable with her around me or my son at all, and when I told my mother this, she told me that I could leave then. So I packed up our stuff and am now staying with my sister. I have an apartment set up already but can't move in till August. I just don't know what to do and feel so unimportant. Edit. I just wanted to add a little more context for everyone. So for everyone asking if Amy still lives with my mom, sadly, yes, she does. And now that I'm not there to help her, I'm very concerned about her. I am my mom's 4th bio kid and her youngest bio kid. My older sister took primary care of me until my mother kicked her out. 3 out of 4 of her bio kids have been kicked out for separate reasons. The only reason my mom is a foster parent is for the money, and after Liz leaves, she will be taking in 3 more kids, so she can get money to buy something. I'm not sure what, but it's not for the kids. Liz also had a case against her for abusing a 6-year-old girl, not Amy, while she lived with us. She has been with my mom for a week and a lot has happened since, and I will update when it's over. Thank you for all the comments and advice. Now for the top comments before reading the update. It's not that you are not unimportant, but that she's a crappy mom, and she will get paid for taking care of Liz, and not you. She is thinking short-term and only about the money that she can make. Such as it is, especially when you consider that Liz can get disability checks as well. That's a good amount of money plus food stamps depending on the state, and Medicaid. That's nothing to sneeze at. The problem is that that money is supposed to be spent on a person, but I happen to know, because my own mom did this, that she can keep it for herself and say that she is. The government is kinda lazy about sending people to check if they are telling the truth. As long as she's not lying on her taxes, she's going to get away with it. You are completely right here. That is 100% the reason why she did it. She said that when she became a foster parent, the money was important. As much as this hurts, you made the best decision that you could for you, and most importantly your son. Protecting him is the most important thing right now. Your mom can now deal with the repercussions of her decision on her own, and you can sleep soundly knowing you made a right decision. I wish you and your son so much luck and happiness in this next chapter in your lives. Especially since she basically kicked out her infant grandchild for a troubled mess that was already justifiably removed by government services the first time around. No one's going to let Opie's mom live that one down once the baby's age is known and why. Troubled messes come with bigger checks. Former foster kid here. Can also confirm as someone who once wrote the checks for foster families at an organization I worked. It is significant the difference between a youth with and without that need for extra help. My sister used to purposely take in little tyrants. You know, the ones that bite people and need therapy 4 times a week. She was getting tons of money. They also get more for infants and toddlers. If your mom is okay with putting you and your child in harm's way, I hope down the road she's not confused as to why she has a daughter and a grandchild that she is cut off from. If I cut her off, so will the rest of my family. I'm the only reason they haven't gone no contact with her. Then that's on her, not you. Unfortunately, we reap what we sow, and your mom being cut off is not your responsibility. I feel for you, I really do. But you'd be sacrificing yourself and your sanity so she can continue to mistreat you. Now for the update. Liz was officially and permanently removed from my mom's care and will not be allowed to stay in foster homes with any kids. She's a child, and I don't take joy in her life getting harder, but I'm relieved for the safety of Amy, who is still with my mom. So for a full description of what led to this, about 2 days after she returned to the house, She got mad at Amy and took a handful of Aleve, painkiller. After being rushed to the hospital, she repeatedly said she didn't want to die. She just wanted to feel pain because she was mad. After that, they still put her back in my mom's house, where about 2 days later she stole a lighter and proceeded to light the house on fire. I do not know why she did it. She gave about 50 different versions of why, but ultimately it was probably because she wanted something. After multiple psychological evaluation and questioning, she said that next time she will burn the whole house down and make sure that no one escapes. There will not be a next time. On a different note, I will not be cutting off my mom until she no longer has kids in her house. I will, however, be going low contact. For everyone telling me to report her, she told her caseworker exactly why she wants more fosters, and the caseworker proceeded to find her a 17 female, 12 male, and 6 female. And in the caseworker's words, the 17-year-old will take care of the other 2, plus Amy. They will be placed next month. The system is so hugely screwed, I'm not quite sure what to do. Thank you for the advice, support, and even the criticism. It gave me a great laugh. Sorry I didn't update sooner. I didn't know what was happening until 9 last night, and I was working. Am I the a-hole for forcing my pregnant wife to be taken care of by her brother-in-law while I go on a trip? Original post. So first off, my wife and I are not in the best place right now. This is in part due to her decision to be a surrogate for sister and brother-in-law. I did not agree with this. The current issue is not about that, though it is related. I was recently promoted, and with the promotion, me and my family are invited on a retreat. It is an all-expenses-paid trip. I told my wife about the trip and she was really excited about it, and so are our kids. My wife brought up the trip with her doctor though, and was told that since she is expecting twins, she should not fly after 20 weeks. She will be 24 weeks by the time of the trip, and there is no way for us to go besides flying. The doctor said with how she is progressing, there is a chance she might have to be put in bed rest by then as well. Because of that, my wife doesn't want me to go either, since she says she'll need me here to take care of her. I would be able to since I have the option to work from home. I, however, still want to go on a trip, and so do our kids. So my thinking is that, since the baby is theirs, my sister-in-law and her husband should have to be the ones to take care of my wife. I talked to them about this idea and it was not well received, because my sister-in-law and her husband do not live close by. So one of them would have to come and stay here to take care of her, which means one of them would have to take a week off from work. They apparently are scrambling to save every penny they can since they spent all their savings getting my wife pregnant, and we're not expecting twins. My sister-in-law said if I was really going to abandon my pregnant wife, they would figure it out and take care of her. However, because of the money issue, it means her husband would be the one taking care of my wife since my sister-in-law makes more money than him. It would be very detrimental to them if she took a week off, but they could make do without his paycheck if they had to. To me, it seems like a good enough solution, but wife is upset because she says I'm putting her in the uncomfortable position of being taken care of by her brother-in-law when she's in a vulnerable state. Of course, nobody's thinking he's going to do anything to her. She is just uncomfortable because he's a man, and she would rather he not look after her. Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. The issue is precisely that she is surrogating against your wishes. What was the decision-making process you went through? In situations like this, there is no compromise. One wins. But it's how you got there. That she wants you and the kids to change plans because of this suggests she won more by default than process. This was a decision that profoundly affects all of you, especially since you've been through this with your own and no pregnancy. No, her choice, her consequence. Go and enjoy yourself, and when you get back, get into marital therapy. That she doesn't see all of this suggests this one doesn't have a long shelf life otherwise. There wasn't any decision-making process that I was a part of. I was told it was none of my business. Perfect. Then taking care of her now is none of your business. Take your kids and enjoy your trip, and when you get back, rethink your whole marriage. Not a-hole. Your wife agreed to be a surrogate without you being on board with the idea? Frankly, you have much bigger problems to face than whether to go on this trip. I know. Like I said, things aren't great right now to begin with. Not a-hole. I'm sorry she just did that without even a discussion. As a female, a mom, and a partner, this is awful to me. It also really bothers me that these people are like, "Whoa, we have to take care of the person carrying our babies." So what are they gonna do when the babies are here? Drop them with your wife? Leave them with a nanny all the time? Hang on, this isn't just about one trip. If she might need to be put on bed rest at 24 weeks, doesn't that leave a whole 16 weeks that she's going to need a carer? And they think you should be doing that? Yeah, time for the wife to go live with a sister and brother-in-law. What a mess. Now for the mini update. I go offline for a bit to take care of some things and I come back to all these comments. Thank you all for helping not feel so crazy or, I don't know, alone in this. I do realize now that this is the end of the road for us. I probably should have realized that sooner. So right now, I'm just going to start preparing for that and try to make this process as easy as possible for our kids. Next story. Am I the a-hole for dumping my girlfriend who left her husband for me? I was in a friends with benefit relationship with a woman. I didn't know that she was married. She told me that they were separated. I started catching feelings for her and I confessed that I want to build a future with her. And she came next day to my doorstep and told me that she wants to move in with me as her ex is making her divorce difficult. I was like, sure. First few weeks were good. She would clean and cook for me. Then she started messing with my things, telling me where to put my keys, how I go out whenever I want, etc. She became irritating and eggy, so I lost feelings for her and kicked her out. She started begging me to give her another chance, that she will not bother me and how she left her husband for me. Turns out they were not separated. She was cheating on that poor sod with me. I told her to kick rocks and never contact me again. She's now spreading rumor that I love bombed her, that I somehow manipulated her into cheating with me. Her husband is not letting her get back and is going for full custody on grounds for abandonment. I don't blame him, but I do think he's overreacting, although it's none of my business. She has been harassing me in social media, blaming me for stringing her along and using her for fun. I used her for fun, as much as she used me the same. I didn't love bomb her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You may want to make a post about how it really went down. Public embarrassment can be a way to get her to stop harassing you. I agree. At least respond with, if I had known you were still married, I never would have gone out with you or slept with you. Then block her on all platforms. Yep, tell the story that she told you she was separated and going through a divorce. In fact, post your Reddit post to her social media. Then block. I don't blame him, but I do think he's overreacting, although it's none of my business. She's spreading lies about you on social media after deceiving you as well as her husband. Yet you think her husband is someone who overreacts? Trust me, if you think you've seen the worst of her in just a short period of time, then you should take into account how much he has had to deal with after being married for a while and having kids with her. You are probably just the last straw. Consider setting the record straight on social media, as her lies could affect you negatively. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but a bit crappy. She literally ditched her kids to move in with this random guy. That's abandonment. Him calling the husband filing for custody on grounds for abandonment overreacting is horrible. No, he didn't know. He does now. No, he didn't ask her to leave her kids, but saying it's overreactive is crappy. It's not overreaction. It's the definition of abandonment. Leaving your kids for nearly a month to move in with your new boyfriend is abandonment. She was cheating on her husband with you and used you when she was kicked out by her husband. Why would you give a chance to a cheater? If she did that to her husband, she will probably do the same to you. She even lied to you about her relationship with her husband. She only wants to get back together with you because she needs a place to stay. Just block her and go no contact with her. She is a troubled person and it's not your responsibility. Just learn your lesson and avoid making the same mistake in the future. Next story. Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife after she got an abortion? My 27 male and wife 27 female have been together for 4.5 years and married for 2. We've discussed kids before marriage and both agreed that we wanted kids. A couple weeks after we got married, we started trying for a baby and she got pregnant, but was having doubts about kids at a time. We discussed it a bit, and she said she didn't feel ready yet. I didn't push back and let her make the decision since she's the one who's pregnant. 3 weeks ago, she got pregnant again. I was excited, but she still wasn't sure. She said she wanted to wait a little longer, and I tried asking her for a timeline, but she just said when she feels ready, she'd let me know. I asked her if she still wants kids at all, and she gave me a non-answer where she said she doesn't know if she wants kids anymore and wouldn't elaborate. I didn't want to pressure her to do anything, but I told her that I want to have kids and that I need to rethink our relationship if this is the route she wants to go. She got the procedure and I started the divorce proceedings a few weeks later. Some of our mutuals are saying I was wrong to separate because of this, and she's called me a few times sobbing. I really want to be with her, but having kids and starting a family is really important to me, and it feels like she's been too unsure and unclear with what she wants and has been stringing me along in the process. Edit? Sorry, I should have clarified that the second time she got pregnant, we weren't actively trying because she hadn't said she's ready after the first termination. Now for the top comments. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole. This relationship ain't gonna work out. You both want different things. Just end it and move on and find someone that actually does want what you want. Her not wanting kids is okay, but what's not okay is her stringing you along with non-answers and awful communications just to keep you with her. Exactly. OP didn't force his will on her and didn't judge the choice to terminate the pregnancy. But when she couldn't be clear on a timeline, failed to communicate in addition to having the second termination, OP is right to think their future plans may not be aligned. Reddit has seen plenty of women who have been strung along until it's too late to have babies. Here, he is willing to do something about it. She has the right to terminate, he has the right to leave as a result. Not the a-hole. It seems she doesn't want kids but wanted to keep you. No, you're not the a-hole. Wanting kids or not is a fundamental incompatibility. Obviously, you aren't compatible. How many terminations do your friends expect you to go through? Are you not allowed to feel betrayed that you entered a marriage assuming you shared common goals only to find out she lied? I question the mindset of a woman who actively tries to get pregnant and then changes her mind twice. I think it's a good thing not to have kids with someone like that. This isn't normal behavior. You're doing the right thing, not the a-hole. A friend of mine from school was adopted as a kid. It turns out his bio father was a successful lawyer/judge in California. His bio mom was a popular artist. They are both still married to each other. But they had 3 kids and then decided 4 was too many and gave him up for adoption. Then they had another and decided to keep it. So basically it was just him they didn't want. Initially, this made him feel like crap. But then he met his bio siblings and they were all like, "Thank your lucky stars you got out of this family." It was a crazy circus. No kid wants to be unwanted. It's like you said, anyone with a wife's mindset shouldn't be a parent. Something is off about her. At least she realizes it and didn't parent a kid. Last story. Would I be the a-hole if I broke up with my boyfriend for not proposing? So I, female 27, have been with my boyfriend, male 25, for 3 years next month. He is the best boyfriend I've ever had, and this is the best and healthiest relationship I've ever had with anyone. I haven't had many relationships, but this is by far the best one. There are so many things I love about him, and I know that he loves me just as much if not more. When we first started dating, I told him that I was dating to marry. I know exactly what I want, and I have a timeline for it. I wanted to be married for a little while before I have kids, and I want to have kids no later than 35 years old. I want this for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is avoiding high-risk pregnancy. I've experienced personal loss, my 4-month-old baby sister due to genetic complications that were likely associated with my mother's geriatric pregnancy. Pregnancies are considered geriatric and higher risk once the woman is 34 or older. We've had many talks about this throughout the years, as this is something that is important to me, and he knows that. All that being said, I am turning 28 this year. He's 26 this month. Time is flying, and I feel like I'll be 30 next week. I really don't want to be his or anyone's girlfriend for more than 4 or 5 years. And as we approach our 3rd year and move towards our 4th year, I would really like to be engaged pretty soon. He said that he wants to marry me, but it's always someday or not anytime soon. When I ask him what he sees for us in the next year or 2, he says that he wants us to be living together, which gives me hope because he knows that I have no interest in living with a significant other unless we are at least engaged. But at the same time, he also wants to move out of his parents' house and live on his own for a while before we actually live together. I totally respect the fact that he may not be at a point in his life where he is ready to take the next step of engagement, and I don't want to push him or give him an ultimatum. However, I do want to do what's best for myself at the end of the day, no matter how much I love him and I love our relationship. I love him, and I know that us breaking up would destroy him, but at the same time, I don't want to put my own life on hold and my health at risk in the future solely to spare his feelings. I'm torn on what to do, and a big part of me feels like I would be a gigantic a-hole for this. And so, I ask for the court of public credit opinion. Would I be the a-hole for breaking up with him if we're not engaged within the next year? I would be more than happy to get back with him if we did break up and he decided he wanted to get married. I love him and I want to be with him, but I also want to do what is in my own best interest for my future. Edit? Okay, I didn't think this would get so much attention and I haven't even read all the comments, and I just want to clear a few things up. 1. I'm not super rigid in this timeline. I know life happens the way it's gonna happen regardless of what we plan. The only thing I'm the least willing to compromise on is when I have kids. Among the health risks, I also just don't want to be pushing 40 and pushing out a baby for the first time, and I want at least 2 kids. 2. Some of you guys are mean and sad a-holes, but a lot of you have given great advice and mirrored a lot of thoughts I was already having. I think I'm going to wait until our anniversary before I have yet another talk with him about not just what I want, but what he wants and when he wants it. He's not irresponsible at all, but he has the freedom and safety net, his parents, to allow him the freedom to try things and mess up, etc. I do not. He's also not on clock like I am. 3. I'm not pressuring him. I'm not manipulating him. We wouldn't be together if that were the case. He's not stupid and does not want to tolerate that nonsense from anyone including me, and I would never. I have too much love and respect, and frankly, I'm just not a piece of turd. 4. I most certainly have communicated everything in this post to him, clearly and in full. He knows what I want and I have an idea of what he wants. I've always made sure to make all my intentions clear with him, because I do have a tendency to expect people close to me to just know or pick up on hints and things, and I just really didn't want that frustration and confusion in my relationship. You wouldn't be the a-hole for expressing your need for a clear plan in marriage. Open communication is key. If your priorities don't align, it's okay to consider your own well-being. I agree. And also, what's his plan? What is the reasoning for still living at home? Is he working, saving money toward his future with you? If he contributes to the household monetarily and or chores-wise, that's a good sign that he's acting like an adult. Is he just there for a free ride and spending his money in a way that doesn't build toward his future with you? Like, what's his plan? Because him saying someday, not anytime soon, feels like he doesn't have a plan, maybe doesn't take your timeline seriously, and is ultimately stringing you along for the benefits. If he's staying with his parents but saving a significant amount of money for the future, then I think it is okay. If his income is plain money, that's a really bad sign. Delayed gratification is something to look for in a long-term partner. The same for things like laundry. Is his mom doing all of the laundry or is he doing his own? Does he know how to cook and clean?